Hi, everyone. Nice meeting you. My name is Itai Green, and thank you, everyone, for coming, for joining this webinar. It is my pleasure. I would like to thank Distrito for this great opportunity, and of course, to thank Israel Tech Hub Brazil, Hayo, and Olga Cohen, who are heading it. Israel Tech Hub Brazil are connecting startups, Israeli startups, with corporations in Brazil, which is actually open innovation, what we're going to discuss today in this webinar. So with your permission, I would like to share my presentation about the COVID-19 as a catalyst for corporate innovation. Give me a second, I will share it with you. And at the end, we're going to have a session for a Q&A, questions and answers. So let's start. I hope that you see my screen, my presentation. So I'll tell you shortly about myself. I have 15 years of experience as an entrepreneur, as a startupist in different domains, different markets. I was heading the innovation activity of Amadeus, which is the leading travel IT corporate based in Madrid. I was heading their innovation activity in Israel. I was launching a consulting firm called Innovate Israel, which is the company that I manage. Innovate Israel is a company that helps corporations around the world and governments to innovate with third parties, which is open innovation. You all know what's in common between the BlackBerry, the Blockbuster, Agfa, Kodak, Yahoo, MySpace, and the like. They've all been disrupted. They've all been disrupted by technology. We all want to be like different corporations than those that I've mentioned. We want to be like Netflix. We want to be like Amazon. We want to be like, for example, like Coca-Cola, Turner, Mercedes, and Walmart that are leading a great initiative of open innovation in Israel called The Bridge. And we want to be like Lego, Lego that our kids and some of us as well love to play with, that, Lego has initiated themselves from scratch a few years ago when they realized that their kids are expecting for something else, something different than they used to provide. And currently you can see such robots that you can control via your smartphone or via the iPad. They use the IoT technology in order to differentiate themselves and to provide real value that their clients, the kids, are expecting. They connected the old world with the new world, thanks to the IoT technology. So these are really some good examples of corporations around the world that are using technology in order to do better, to provide value. There is an arrogance of success for big corporations to think that what used to work for them in the past is going to keep working for them and be enough, sufficient for tomorrow, for the future. And if there is one thing I wanted to take out of my presentation, is that what used to work for you till now is not enough anymore. You always need to innovate and to bring new values to the companies. The best thing for innovation is COVID-19. I know it's a little bit difficult to see a positive aspect in this COVID, but this crisis is a huge opportunity for innovation. And we are lucky. You see, I always look on the positive aspect. We are lucky. We are lucky because technology nowadays allow us to do things much faster, much faster. Just imagine the telephone of Graham Bell It took 75 years to reach 50 million users. But with today's technology, for a good game or Zoom or any other good technology, it takes weeks or maybe a couple of months to reach 50 million users. How is it? How it happens? Thanks to technology. Technology nowadays allows us to move much, much, much faster than we used to know, than we got used to before. I've recently shared 8 tips for startups, entrepreneurs during the COVID-19 crisis. I published this article on innovation management platform, and I will not get into all the tips, but I can tell you that in Israel, we've faced during the last 2.5 months a crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, and it absolutely had an impact on the startups. And some of the tips that I shared is, again, it's an opportunity, the COVID-19 for the startups. It's an opportunity to be a little bit slimmer, a little bit more efficient. It's an opportunity to, in many cases, to focus into new domains, into new markets. It's an opportunity to strengthen relationship with the community, with your shareholders, with your board members. So there are many, many opportunities that would allow these startups to overcome the crisis. There is another article that I've recently shared. It's like the day after COVID-19, and with your permission, I will share with you some tips. First of all, it's a process. The day after COVID-19 is a process. It's a process. In every country, the day after is going to be on a different day. In China, it was a month ago. In Israel, in Greece, in Cyprus, it's nowadays. Next week, it's going to be in Europe. And soon it's going to be in your place as well, in Brazil. So it's a process. It's quite clear that a lot will look different, a lot in our day-to-day life, in our personal life, in our business life. Everyone moved to online in this COVID-19 era. Clients, but also employees. And it allows us, for example, to promote the e-learning and also to promote virtual connection, virtual communication with our clients, with your clients, because they got used to it. They expect you to provide them with a different way of communication than it was before the COVID-19. Another thing is the DIY, the do-it-yourself. Your clients are willing to do by themselves much more than before. Also, your employees, it's an opportunity. The working from home is a huge opportunity. It allows companies to save on the rent of the real estate. In many cases, working from home showed the corporate managers that the efficiency became even better than before. So there is a lot to learn here. We're going to have the safe zone stamp. It's going to be the kind of new security standard, the COVID-19 free zones. It's going to be in airports, in hotels, in working places, in your offices, in many places. So that's another thing which is going to be different. There are many, many domains, many markets that will be able to overcome the crisis only with the government assistance. You want an example? Travel. Travel needs the government assistance. Everyone is going to look to sell more, all corporates, in less time, to be more efficient. The clients will expect discounts to get the same for a lower price. It means everyone would need to be more efficient. And we need to rethink. It's a great time to rethink, to have creative solutions, and most important, to execute fast. And again, everyone, all companies, all corporations are going to look into efficiency. They would like to maximize efficiency. It would not happen unless you integrate new technologies. And another thing we've learned during the crisis is the more a corporate is relying on technology, the more flexible it is to deal with crises like COVID-19. So if you want to get prepared for the second wave in the next winter of COVID-19, after this crisis is going to be over, you have a limited slot of time to integrate more and more technology in order to get prepared for the next day, for the next wave of the COVID. These brands were not with us till relatively recently, 10 to 15 years, and they controlled their market thanks to technology. Uber, the largest company of taxi without owning a single taxi. Facebook, like the biggest content provider, and we provide the content. Alibaba is really the largest retailer, e-commerce, and without having an inventory. And Airbnb is really has a huge impact on the accommodation market. All of them are thanks to technology. And it's not the only thing. When you wake up in the morning, you think yet that you know who are your competitors, but you might wake up in the next morning and realize that you have a new competitor, a new giant. Like Alibaba is in the hotel business with this robot. Alibaba is in the car business in China. And Amazon is selling insurance. So how did they do that? With technology. So it is super important to know who are your competitors, but also who are your potential competitors, that if they will use certain technology, they might have a significant impact on the market. So there is always a dilemma between internal innovation and external innovation. For me, it is quite clear. It is quite clear that you first need to do really good external innovation. Only then try to look for internal innovation. And I hope that with this webinar, I will be able to convince you. Open innovation is an unlimited opportunity. Why is that? Because of this quote. This quote is that no matter who you are, most of the smartest people are not working for you. They're working for someone else. Even if you're Google, even if you're Facebook, most of the smartest people are not working for you. They're working for someone else. And if that's the case, and it's a matter of statistic, you have to agree with that. Then if that's the case, you should collaborate with third parties, startups, academy, and other companies. This is the unlimited opportunity for you. And if you do it, and you do it right, it's the lowest risk with the greatest ROI, the best way to innovate. You might guess what's in common between all these brands. And we don't have the opportunity now for you to answer because I don't see the chat. So I will answer. The common thing here is that all these brands were Israeli startups that grew to unicorns, that companies' valuation is over $1 billion. And what's in common between all these brands? 536 multinationals like these brands are actively looking in Israel for the next Waze, for the next PrimeSense, for the next Fiverr, for the next Checkpoint. They want to know these brands, and in total 536 multinationals, they want to put their hand on the next Waze before their competitor does so. So these brands are not managed by stupid people. They have a good reason to have a team in Israel to look for the next Waze. And as I just mentioned, you are lucky to have Israel Tech Hub Brazil that can help you access this Israeli ecosystem. Innovation is a must in order to secure and make sure that you will keep on winning, keep on beating your competitors. It's the only way for you to improve quality, speed, and efficiency very fast and reduce costs and improve and increase revenues. That's all thanks to technology and innovation. The Start Nation, we have one startup per less than 1,400 Israelis. Just to compare, in Europe, there is one startup per 20,000 people. In Israel, the VC investment dollars per capita is over 30 times over Europe, 30x over Europe, and 1.5x over the States. So there is a lot of available funds in Israel to fund all the startups. Corporates that are working with Israeli startups, and generally speaking, working with startups, are doing it in order to leverage the advantages of new technologies and create a significant competitive value for the corporate comparing to other companies for the benefit of the customers, the partners, the shareholders. In Israel, there was a very interesting research that was handled by the PwC and Start Nation Central, that this survey was asking all the 536 corporations, why are you doing it? Why are you doing innovation? And the answer is that thanks to innovation, innovation is the only way for them to create the extra gap, to beat the competitors. So this is super important. And when they were asking, why do you do it? They say that they came to do innovation in order to develop the core capabilities to access unique talent in Israel, looking for disruptive business models, acquire R&D assets, and more. But the basic is really to innovate, to develop core capabilities. This is the reason why they do open innovation. And of course, there are challenges when you are approaching innovation, when you're working with startups. The number one and number two challenges are really to bridge between the corporate and the startup ways of working, because corporations and startups are totally different cultures. And of course, to interface with Israeli activities and business units is another challenge. And I hope that by the end of this webinar, you will get some tools, some productive tools, how to really overcome these challenges. I will do my best. A little bit about the Israeli ecosystem. The Israeli ecosystem is unique. It's not only unique because we have almost 7,000 startups, endless number of foreign delegations, over nearly 500 professional investors, hundreds of accelerators, incubators, and technological innovation hubs, over 500 multinationals, as I just mentioned, many good service providers, and good public universities. That's not the reason. These numbers are not telling the story. The real story behind the scenes for the success of this ecosystem is the fact that all these ecosystem players are sharing know-how, sharing knowledge, partnering with each other, even competitors. And thanks to the fact that they're sharing, all the ecosystem is moving much faster than other ecosystems around the world. So it's a great opportunity to take an advantage out of this uniqueness. If you want to learn about the strength and opportunities of specific domain, specific ecosystem in Israel, all you need to do in order to get the initial perspective and understanding is to Google. And if you Google, for example, Israel Ecosystem Cyber Map, you'll get this map with all these little startups and each and every subdomain of cybersecurity. And if you will look for IoT, in the Internet of Things, you will get all this map with these startups, which are the leading one in the IoT space. If you look for financial technology solutions, you'll get this one. If you look for insurance technologies, you'll get this. This is for retail technology. This is for deep technology. And this is for AI, artificial intelligence. And you must admit that this is quite impressive. This is travel technology, and this is a relatively new ecosystem map with startups in Israel that are relevant to combat the COVID-19. So if you want to fight it and you want to get prepared for the day after, you can find really good technology solutions in this map. When startups are approaching you as a corporate, what are they looking for? So I'll tell you, they are looking for POC, for a proof of concept. They want to create a design partnership with you. And it's a real win-win because you are the best. You are the most professional in your market. You know the business the best, your business. You know the industry. You know the market. You have a working platform to make trials with a new technology. And this is exactly what the startups are looking for. They're looking for your know-how and for the working platform that you own. They bring the most innovative solutions, the best technology, the best creativity, and really people, entrepreneurs that are eager to succeed. If you combine your strength with their strength and work according to the methodology that I will share in a minute, both will win. The startup will get a working platform to improve their product, and you will get the best technology fast and beat your competitors with this. So this is really the best way to innovate. I was publishing this article in Innovation Management, sharing 10 tips for corporate open innovation with startups. And with your permission, I will share it with you. Number one tip is to have a commitment of the board, of the C-level, of the top management of the company. This is a must. Without that, it's going to be really difficult, really tough to succeed with open innovation, to succeed with working with startups. In many cases, the board members do not really understand what is innovation all about, what is the value of that, why is it important for the corporate, and why they need to change their mindset. Corporate people are really great people. Board members are smart people, but naturally, they are more finance business oriented. They are not oriented with technology. They lack the knowledge of what is innovation, what is the value. And when they know better, the corporate will do better. Board members are smart people, but in most cases, they don't know what innovation is. So it is super important to bridge the gap, to tell them, to educate them for the values of open innovation. Why is it that important? So this is really, really important. My recommendation is to have a diversity. Professional people in the board. Have people who are professional in innovation and technology in your board member. It is a simple step, cheap step with a huge impact. I can tell you that in Israel, for an example, it is mandatory by law to have at least one board member who is professional in technology and innovation in each and every board of a bank. It is mandatory. Again, simple step, highly recommended. And when you have 3 board members like this, MIT claim that you have significant improvement of profit margins, of the bottom line, of the revenue growth, of the asset yield, of the market value growth. It is super, super impactful. And what they were doing, all these companies, simple step, brought the missing knowledge into the board. And you better guess, in S&P 500 board members, the average age is 60, 60. Only 2% of the board members are below the age of 55. And with all the respect, we are in 2020, where everything is moving so fast, thanks to technology. So we cannot really keep on relying on people who don't really understand the trends and not familiar with it. So it is important to have people with experience in finance, in business, and so on. But we need to have a diversity. We need to have not only people, additional people with the knowledge of technology and innovation, we also need to have a diversity with respect to age. And I can tell you that in Israel, the governmental companies are aiming to have 20% of the board members below the age of 40. And it is important. And this study, Equilar, supports this aim to have younger top management, younger board members. And when you have such people on board, suddenly you have 15 to 30 minutes and each board member meeting speaking about innovation. Suddenly, entrepreneurs are coming to present to the board. Suddenly, you discuss budget for innovation. And that's the reason why it's so important. The second tip is to have an innovation leader in the corporate. Startups needs to know who is the one in the corporate to approach when they want to speak with you, to offer their technology, to offer their innovation. Who is the one in the corporate that would take them hand by hand along the process? It is very sexy to have many people in the corporate carrying a business card with the terminology of innovation. But for startupists, it's a mess. They need to know who is the one. Who is the one they need to knock on their door in the corporate so they will help them to along the process to make it efficient. The third tip is challenges. You know the best. What are your challenges as a corporate? I guarantee you that 3 months ago, your challenges were totally different. And you need to update these challenges from time to time. And once you update your challenges, my recommendation is to share it. Share it with the ecosystem. Share it with third parties. Share it with the academy, with other companies, and mostly recommended with entrepreneurs, with startups. Once they will be familiar with your challenges, you will be amazed by their solutions. The fourth tip is very important, and I really encourage you to share it with your HR people. There are two different types of people in the world, in your corporate. The first type are those with the NIH syndrome. NIH stands for not invented here. Not invented here mean corporate people with a huge ego that manage them in the day-to-day work. It means that if they see a new technology that was not invented by them, but by someone else, their ego doesn't really allow them to partner with these smart people who came with this idea, which was not there. The other type is FOMO, the fear of missing out people. People were curious to know what's new out there. They're always eager to know, eager to partner, eager to learn, eager to partner with third party like startups. So my recommendation is to get rid out of those NIH people. Fire them. Don't hire new people like this. Promote only formal people. Hire only formal people. People who are not motivated by ego. Because when you are motivated by ego, it doesn't allow you to collaborate with third parties. And with your permission, I will tell you a story from my personal experience. I was working for a startup that has developed a unique radio technology. And this radio technology was also developed by a huge corporate in Israel. Every time when we approached this corporate, we met their R&D guy. And their R&D guy every time was amazed by our development. And after the meeting, after we asked him to collaborate, to partner, to approach tenders together, he went to his boss, to the CEO of the company. He told him about the startup uniqueness, about the great technology, and he asked for another 50 developers, another 100 developers. In this way, they invested much more than we invested. And at the end of the day, you probably remember a little bit more than a year ago, there was a group of teenagers in Thailand that were stuck in a cave. And the only way to reach these young people was with a uniqueness radio technology that was developed in one startup in Israel and in one corporate in Israel. Unfortunately for the corporate radio unit, the radio technology was not working. The only technology that was working at the entrance for the cave was the one that was developed by the startup. And what happened? Thanks to the NIH huge ego of this R&D leader in the corporate, they lost all the tenders in Southeast Asia. So this is just one example. I have many more examples. If we have time during the last part, I'll be more than happy to share with you more examples like this, but I have really many. Another tip is to speak the startup lingo. Naturally, corporate and startups has different language, different culture. So if you want to work with a startup, speak the startup language. Startups would never speak the corporate lingo, only vice versa. So if a corporate wants to work with a startup, it needs to adopt new ways of working. Be available 24/7, working fast, replying fast. Always keep your mind open when you meet startup. Always when you meet startup, try to think why yes, no, why not. Why we want to work with a startup. Why this startup is going to bring value to us. That's the way to approach startups. And when you work with a startup, you treat the startup as a partner, not as a supplier. You treat the startup with respect, and you treat it as a partner. And I'll give you a good, really little example. There are many corporations that realize that if they want to work with a startup, the startup is not their bank. It's not their bank. And if they want to work with the startup, they need to pay the startup. They need to pay for the pilots. And by the way, it's not a lot of money. But they need to pay for the pilots and to pay immediately. Not in 60 days, not in 90 days, immediately. Because for the startup, their cash flow is super important. So if a corporate pay on time and immediately, it sends a very important signal to the ecosystem, to other startups, that it's good for them to work with this corporate. And of course, if you want to work with a startup, you need to have a budget for that. And again, if you don't have the budget, be transparent with the startup. Tell the startup from day one, we don't have a budget. Transparency in this relationship between corporate and startup is super important. The next tip is not to measure the success of open innovation by return on investment, by ROI, at least not in the first couple of years. So how do you measure the success of open innovation? You measure it by the number of POCs, number of proof of concepts that you've been running with startup. I can tell you, a client of mine in the insurance space, which had nothing to do with innovation before I came to consult. In the first year we working together, this company in the insurance space with 3,000 employees was able to run 35 different POCs, pilots, with different startups. And was super important because the 35th startup was that good and impactful on the corporate that even if the previous 34 POCs were bringing zero value, which was not the case, with half of them, the corporate was engaged commercially. But even if we were not having these 17 successful commercial agreements with these startups out of the 34, the 35th was that good that all the process was worth. The next tip is that if you want to get equity in a startup, you need to pay for that. 5 years ago, there were cases that startups were willing to give shares for free to corporations only for the benefit of POC or working together. Not anymore. If you want to get equity, you need to pay for that. Maybe with a discount, maybe not, but you need to pay for that. There are no free meals, no free gifts. And the last tip is to minimize bureaucracy. I know you are working for corporate and bureaucracy is a natural part of the corporate life, but not with startups. When you're working with startups, it is important to create a green line, to have someone who is able to minimize the bureaucracy that startups will face with procurement, with legal, with other departments. Because when you send a signal to the ecosystem that you're working fast with minimum bureaucracy with startups, suddenly all startups, the good one, will approach you. I want to share with you that in many countries, there is 6 degrees of separation between one person to another. In Israel, between one person to another, there is maximum one person. So if you're doing as a corporate good job in Israel, your good reputation will be spread around really fast. But the opposite is also right. So it is super important that if you want to work with startups, do it in the right way, in the best way, so those that are working with you will be happy. And they will tell their colleagues that it is the best to work with you. During the coronavirus, we could find 2 types of employees, corporate employees. Everyone is working from home, but one type of employees are watching Netflix, and the other type of employees are working from morning to night via Zoom to move forward, to integrate more technologies. Many corporations are doing so during the crisis from home. They're able to integrate new technologies that it used to take months or a year to do before the COVID-19, and now it takes days or weeks. And by the end of the crisis, you'll see totally different competition landscape. You'll see corporations that their employees were in front of Netflix during the coronavirus, and they will be like before, but they will lose a lot. They will lose the market because the competitors were eager to move forward and eager to integrate new technologies during the crisis. And these type of corporations will surprise the other one. So the crisis is a great opportunity to get prepared to the day after and beat your competitors in the day after, which is going to look different. So the COVID-19 is a great and real opportunity for each and every corporate in Brazil. All you need to do is to do it right. I was trying to share my know-how, my knowledge, and the experience that was gained in Israel in the relationship between corporations and startups in the open innovation environment. And I'm sure that you can take a lot to your day-to-day work. The 10 tips I really feel like are practical tips to implement as of today. No need to wait for tomorrow. And the thing is that you can do it even remotely. And I'll give you a tip. The best way to do it is to speak with your top management. Learn about the updated challenges. Provide you back with a list of potential solutions, potential technologies. You rank your level of interest, and then you meet on Zoom in one day with the 10 best startups that fit your challenges. And at the end of this webinar, at the end of this session, you will be surprised that on average, with 7 out of the 10 startups, you would have an interest to have a second meeting in order to deepen and to speak about potential collaboration. And this is exactly what we can do together. Thank you very much. As I've mentioned, in Israel, it is very important to partner and to share and to collaborate. So as I recommended, I also do by myself. And you can feel free to approach me via email, website, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and ask for whatever you want. Feel free to ask anything, even after this webinar. And also, if you want to get this PDF, this presentation, I'll be more than happy to share it with you. There are no secrets here, and we're here to support your needs and your challenges. And now we will move to the other part of the questions and answers. And you are more than welcome to ask any question, and I'll do my best to answer. So the first question, as I see, is from Francisco, who is asking, how do you see innovative people with or without entrepreneurial skills? Would that be key for startup failures? So when you meet startup, and after 15 years as a startupist, when I meet the startupists, it's relatively easy to identify people entrepreneurial skills. When you meet someone who is open, who is willing to listen, who is willing to collaborate, who is curious, you know that he has important skills for you as a corporate. And when I work with startups, not unlike the corporate people, and now I'm speaking about startups, when I meet the entrepreneurs and have one-on-one meeting, I always check about their background. I speak with people that used to work with them. I want to measure their entrepreneurial skill, their entrepreneurial level. And in Israel, it's relatively easy, as I told you, because it's relatively easy to ask someone who knows this entrepreneur about his background and to learn whether everything is fake or this one is really a talented one. And one of the reasons for failure of startups is really people who are not with the right talents, but there are many more reasons. For example, entrepreneurs who are not getting well with each other, startupists that are not really don't really understand the market. There are many reasons, and one of your advantages is to really provide them with the know-how that in some cases they are missing. I hope that I answered. If not, you're more than welcome to approach me privately or re-ask. Gabrielle is asking, how did the pandemic change the strategies for investing in startups, and how did the crisis affect the view of corporations and investors regarding risky investment? So it depends on the market, but even in travel market, for example, that was harmed significantly, there are huge opportunities. So corporations and investors, smart investors, understand, based on previous experience from 2008 and from previous crises, that every crisis is an opportunity. And it's an opportunity because you see startups who had a specific technology for a specific market, but suddenly it provides value and answer a challenge for a totally different market. So what I see is smart corporations and smart investors are taking an advantage of the crisis in order to find the most suitable startups, invest in the startups, but most important, collaborate with the startups. So it depends. If the top management of the corporate are smart people that understand innovation, they understand that there is a huge opportunity here. Huge. In many cases, they can get even stock in the startup for relatively lowest valuation and better terms than they could get before. But even without investment, just the collaboration opportunity is huge enough for corporates. Morcoin Zaid is asking, do you have success cases of collaboration between Israeli startups and Brazilian companies to share? So there are. I cannot share because it's in most cases it depends on NDAs, but I can tell you, I can provide you with kind of just to give you a hint. There are corporations in Brazil in the food tech business that are working with Israeli startups and getting huge value out of it. And it all depends on the state of mind of the corporate. We are living in a place where you are in Brazil and I'm in Israel, and during the COVID-19 we saw that it's not such a big deal. And we can work together even without meeting each other face to face physically in Brazil or in Israel. So really the distance is not an issue. And it is really easy nowadays to overcome the distance and to move fast with startups for the benefits, first of all, of the corporates and of course of the startups. Any other questions? Yes. Natalia Rodriguez, I hope that I pronounce it correctly. How did Innovate Israel and the Israeli ecosystem itself adapt to these major changes? So first of all, I can tell you that honestly, before the COVID-19, I was used to travel at least twice a month to give presentations and conferences and to meet clients. And now it's a little bit different. So one thing is really to get used to this Zoom and working from morning to night because of the time zone differences. This is one thing. And the other thing is the focus of my clients has been changed. Most of the clients nowadays are not only getting prepared and asking for technologies that will allow them to overcome the crisis and get prepared to the day after. They also look how to get prepared for the second wave. And the second wave might be with us in 4 to 5 months. So their challenges, their areas of interest became totally different. All of them changed their challenges, updated their challenges, made their people be aware of the urgency of innovation, why is it urgent, why is it important. They re-educated people internally to make them understand, fill the gap for those that were not really realizing what is the value of innovation, how to work with startups, and it is something that before you do innovation, you think it's complicated, but it's not. Your employees, your management, your board members are smart people. In many cases, they just don't know. They don't know innovation, but once you fill the gap and you teach them, to make them learn how to do it right with startups, with open innovation, why is it important, they learn immediately, and suddenly you see all the DNA of the company moving forward, changed, and getting prepared for the challenges of the coronavirus, of the corporate, for the future. So that's super important. Roberta Pimenta, how does market research, consumer feedback fits into the startup world? So first of all, startup feedback and consumer research, market research is super important, super important. And the best way for a startup to learn the market feedback is to integrate their technology on your working platform and make your clients get engaged and try their technology. Another thing which working with startups will allow you is to have a better understanding of the trends, of the competitive landscape with your competitors. What are the trends? What your competitors are doing with innovation and startup. I usually tell people, corporates that are asking me, that one way to learn about trends, technology trends, about what our competitors are doing, is to hire a strategic consulting firm like McKinsey or one of the big four, pay them a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of euros in the good case, in others it's over a million, and then in 6 months to 12 months, you will get a very nice presentation with over 100 slides, and they will tell you what are the trends. The only problem is that you will see the trends that were relevant for a few months ago and not relevant anymore. While if you're working with startups, you always know what are the trends now, not in the history. So that's another value, to learn about the competition. Gabriela Dantas is asking, how do you see the startups market right now? Is it worrying or a chance to grow? So it's a good question. There are different types of entrepreneurs and different ways for them to handle the crisis. Some of them are taking it as a really great opportunity, and I see startupists that have shifted the focus, created new products, new technologies, really pivoted to the right place where there is a greatest need, growing need. And of course, you see other entrepreneurs that are not dealing with the crisis, unfortunately, and in many cases, ruining down, slowing and shutting down the startup and moving to another startup. So, but I think many, especially in Israel, are serial entrepreneurs, and they have the capabilities of really facing in the best way the challenges they face. And I see more and more like this. But of course, there are different types. Any other question? You're welcome, Gabrielle. We have a few more minutes, so feel free to ask any questions. Yes, Vitor is saying Shalom Itai, Shalom Vitor. Is it possible to share the presentation after? Yes, of course. As I told you, I always encourage my clients and other ecosystem players to share and to collaborate and to partner. So I cannot really recommend sharing without sharing by myself. So sure, approach me via email, WhatsApp, LinkedIn right after the presentation. I'll be more than happy to share with you the PDF. And if you have any question, wonderful, feel free. I guarantee to get back to each and every one here in less than 24 hours. Roberta, oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And Carol is saying at the moment, how to make relationship with competitors in a reliable way. So that's good. It's not easy, but I would recommend to create communities of specific domains. For an example, if you are in the food chain, in the food, if you are in homeland security, if you are in travel, if you are in the food, or if you are in the agro, create a community. Invite to the community all the ecosystem players, including your competitors. It's fine. And let the best win. So this is one of the ways to collaborate, creating such communities. And there are ways to do it without sharing secrets, just sharing challenges which are common. Trust me, most of your challenges are common to your competitors. And at the end of the day, the one who will win is the one that will execute in the best way. That's the challenge. I hope that I answered your question. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, the hosts that have initiated this webinar. Thank you very much, Distrito and Cohen, Israel Travel Brazil, Travel Hub Brazil. Thank you very much. And you see you have the contact of Israel Tech Hub, of Hayo and Olga Cohen, and anything you need from them, they'll be more than happy to get back to you and help you get connected with the right startups and provide you with the experience of how to do it right. And it's much easier than originally people tend to think. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.